Revealed. How a billionaire's divorce exposed hidden treasures and transformed her life forever. The headline screamed, "Billionaire's ex-wife uncovers family secrets." Lila Montgomery stared at the glowing screen, her heart racing. Once heralded as the crown jewel of Westfield, New Jersey, the philanthropist whose every fundraiser was a dazzling affair, now she felt like a ghost, haunting her own life. Divorced from tech mogul Robert Montgomery, whispers of scandal hung in the air like fog, suffocating her every step. The glittering life she once knew slipped through her fingers like grains of sand. "Lila, you still have so much to give," Rachel, her loyal friend, said over steaming cups of coffee at the local cafe. They sat at their usual spot, eyes darting to the affluent families enjoying their extravagant meals. Lila's stomach twisted. Could they ever see past her divorce? Did they even want to? With heavy hearts, they decided to return to Lila's ancestral home, an old estate forgotten by time. As they drove, Rachel filled the silence with hopeful chatter about new beginnings, but Lila stared out the window, a tightness in her chest. What was she without her title? Without her husband? The estate loomed before them, overgrown with wildflowers that had claimed ownership of the grounds. It felt strangely peaceful. Inside, Lila felt the coolness of history wrapping around her. Dust motes danced in the light sifting through cracked windows. She gingerly opened a drawer, revealing a collection of treasures, tarnished silver jewelry, letters, and an old, leather-bound journal. Each artifact whispered stories of struggle, sacrifice, and resilience. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A wave of emotion crashed over her as she leafed through the pages of her great-grandmother's account of hardship and hope. Each story weighed heavy with the sacrifices made for family. Her ancestors had clawed their way up from nothing, and here she sat, drowning in privilege. Yet, what good was that wealth now? It felt hollow, like a grand facade masking the emptiness within. Lila attended a town hall meeting the following week, her hands shaking as the room buzzed with frustrated voices. "We need help. Our kids are hungry," a single mother shouted, her face etched with worry. Lila felt the walls close in. Her heart ached. She was that mother, holding on to scraps while the world outside moved on. Torn between the allure of her past life and the profound reality surrounding her, Lila knew this was her pivotal moment. "How can I help?" The words slipped from her lips, steady, but charged with emotion. The room went silent, every gaze locking onto her. Rachel nodded, her eyes shining with belief. It was time to dream, a project that would bridge the gaps in their community, connecting hearts over wallets. Lila took a deep breath, readying herself for a journey that had the potential to reshape her narrative. But just as hope began to ignite within her, a shocking discovery about her family's hidden treasures threatened to unravel everything she thought she knew. What had once been a legacy suddenly felt like a burden. Could she face the truth about her roots when it meant letting go of everything she once cherished? This was just the beginning. Lila stood at the edge of a precipice, heart pounding. What would she choose? Lila sat in the hushed stillness of the estate, the journal open in front of her. Each sentence felt like an anchor pulling her deeper into the sea of her family's past. The lofty ideals she had about her lineage were slowly dissolving. What had her grandmother endured? What secrets lay buried in the pages of her family's history? As the sun began to set, casting golden rays across the dusty room, Lila picked up the journal again, turning the fragile pages slowly. There were stories of love and loss, and underneath each essay of triumph was a hint of betrayal. It was as if her great-grandmother had woven lessons into her life's tapestry, a tapestry that now seemed frayed at the edges, ready to unravel. "You're going to help so many people," Rachel said, interrupting Lila's chain of thoughts as she peered at the journal from across the table. You have a chance to really make a difference. But Lila felt a weight pressing down on her, a storm of uncertainty brewing in her chest. What if I can't carry the burden of my family's legacy with all its flaws? What if their mistakes become mine? Rachel leaned forward, her eyes intense. You aren't defined by their choices. Lila, you're about to forge your own path. This is your chance to take everything they've done and turn it into something beautiful. With those words, Lila felt fierce flickers of hope blaze within her. She envisioned her plan. A community garden to feed the children, workshops to teach them vital skills, a place to unite families. This could be her starting point, a way to transform her family's legacy into something that honored their struggles while focusing on the future. But before she could get lost in her ambitions, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from an old friend, someone who had drifted into the background during her marriage. Can we talk? It read. The name stung her, a reminder of someone who had seen her for who she truly was, not the glint of her past life. Who is it? Rachel asked, noticing her abrupt change in demeanor. It's Jenna, Lila responded hesitantly, her stomach twisting slightly. The last time they spoke hadn't ended well. She heard about the divorce. Maybe this is a good thing, Rachel said, placing a hand on her arm. It might be the push you need, a fresh perspective. Tentatively, Lila agreed. She sent a curt response, arranging to meet Jenna the following day. The thought was both exhilarating and daunting. A swirl of emotions enveloped her. Was she truly ready to confront the past? Could Jenna shed light on the family mysteries hidden behind layers of secrecy? As the shadows deepened around her, Lila continued to wonder. What had Jenna uncovered during their time apart? What more could she learn about herself and the situation she found herself in? She closed the journal and stared out the window, taking in the dying light of day. The next morning unfolded with an odd sense of anticipation, like the calm before a storm. Lila dressed carefully, choosing a simple blouse and jeans, hoping to shield herself from vulnerability while still remaining open. She practiced what she would say, but the words fell flat against the reality of the situation unfolding. When Lila finally arrived at the cozy cafe where they agreed to meet, an electric mix of anxiety and excitement buzzed in her chest. Yet, as she stepped through those doors, she couldn't shake the feeling something much more significant lay ahead, something that would alter the very course of her life. She spotted Jenna immediately, her eyes sparkling with familiarity amidst the busy crowd. But as they embraced, Lila could sense the tension, the weight of unsaid words threatening to erupt. Lila, you won't believe the things I found, Jenna began, her voice steady but carrying a sharp edge. Things I didn't expect, about your family. Lila swallowed hard. Did she truly want to unearth more buried secrets? What would it mean for her journey, her family, and the path she was trying to carve? The walls felt like they were closing in again. What had Jenna discovered that could change everything? Lila felt her heart race, a mixture of dread and curiosity flooding her senses. She searched Jenna's face for clues, trying to catch hints of the shocking revelation awaiting her. What do you mean? What did you find? She urged, keeping her voice steady despite the rapid fluttering in her chest. Jenna took a deep breath, her gaze steady. It's about your great-grandmother. The things that were kept from you. I found papers, photos, documents that could shift everything you thought you knew. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Lila's mind raced. What more could be hidden? What had been so vital that it warranted secrecy? The journal had only hinted at family struggles, but now there was something tangible, something Jenna claimed could change the entire narrative. An older couple at the corner table glanced over, sensing the charged atmosphere. Lila felt exposed under their scrutiny, but this wasn't about them. It was about her family's legacy. What did you find? She asked again, more insistent this time. Jenna unfolded a small piece of aged paper, edges frayed and yellowed with time. This was tucked away in a box of old letters. It's a will, one that never went through. Your great-grandmother had planned to create a community center before everything fell apart after the war. Her dream was similar to what you mentioned, feeding children, providing education. Lila, she had the same vision. Lila felt a surge of emotions, joy for the connection, grief for the dreams that went unrealized, and perhaps a little dread. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" she whispered, feeling small. "Why hide something like this?" Jenna shrugged, her eyes clouded. "I don't know. Secrets often protect and imprison at the same time. But it might explain a lot about the distance in your family, about why your grandmother seemed so conflicted. Maybe this was a puzzle she could never solve." Lila brushed her fingertips over the letter, the spine of a past she had never touched. "What else?" she asked, urgency filling her voice. "What did you find?" With a nod, Jenna continued, her tone shifting to something darker. "There's more. Hidden letters between your great-grandmother and a man who wasn't your great-grandfather. It's like there was an entire life we never knew about, that she lived in shadows." Jenna hesitated, gauging Lila's reaction. It could explain why she felt so trapped. Lila's breath caught in her throat. Each revelation chipped away at the facade of normalcy she had clung to. But those kinds of secrets, it changes everything. Jenna leaned in closer, her voice dropping. "Exactly. And think about how this could empower you. Knowing your family battled the same demons you face will give you strength. You could take her dream and make it a reality, free from the past." Tears pricked Lila's eyes as she considered everything Jenna laid before her. This was no longer just about the garden or workshops. This was about reclaiming a legacy entangled in complex truths, transforming pain into light. Yet the choice hovered before her. Was she prepared to withstand the fallout of discovery? As Jenna slid the fragile letter back into Lila's hands, a sense of determination ignited within her. "You can choose to break the cycle," Jenna encouraged softly. Lila nodded slowly, a rush of resolve washing over her. "I have to discover more. I need to know who she was, what she fought against." Her voice trembled, but carried conviction. "I won't let her story end like this." Then a fleeting thought struck her. Might there still be more buried secrets? What legacy did the rest of her family hold, intertwined with theirs? The idea of unraveling generations of mystery sent a shiver of excitement coursing through her. "Can you help me dig deeper?" Lila asked, her heart racing of anticipation and purpose. Jenna's smile spread, a reflection of renewed hope. "Absolutely. Together we'll uncover the truth. And who knows? Maybe there are treasures from your family's past that aren't merely weighty with secrets, but shimmer with dreams yet to be realized." Lila took a deep breath, feeling the weight of decisions ahead. She gazed out of the cafe window at the busy street, the world moving steadily on. But her own path was shifting beneath her. A journey of discovery, empowerment, and resilience lay ahead. What else would they uncover? And how would it change everything Lila thought she knew about herself and her family? The sense of urgency pushed her forward, knowing that the journey had only just begun. Lila stepped out of the cafe, the afternoon sun washing over her, but its warmth didn't touch the chill settling in her bones. The letter weighed heavily in her pocket, a reminder of shattered illusions and hidden dreams. The street bustled with energy, people scurrying about their daily lives, blissfully unaware of the revelations swirling within her. As she walked, each step felt like a declaration. She didn't just want to know about her great-grandmother, she needed to understand the roots that shaped her family's legacy. The thought sent a thrill through her. The idea that her ancestor had fought for a dream so similar to her own ignited a fire in Lila's heart. "Imagine creating a community center," she murmured to herself, her fingers tracing the outline of the faded letter in her pocket. Feeding children, offering a safe space, helping others like she wished. Her mind spun with possibilities, but the weight of truth tugged at her, reminding her of the shadows lurking behind those dreams. Secrets had a way of unraveling everything, and she was determined to uncover them all. What had pushed her great-grandmother into hiding? What had driven a wedge through her family, leaving them fragmented and confused? Lila made her way to the library, a place where she had spent countless hours lost in other worlds, but today it was different. Today it felt like a treasure chest waiting to be explored. As she entered, the musty scent of old books greeted her like an embrace. She headed straight for the archives, her heart pounding with anticipation. Flipping through faded newspaper clippings and brittle pages, she stumbled upon an article that made her freeze. The headline caught her breath. Mysterious Woman Fights City Hall for Community Proposals. It seemed her great-grandmother had raised much more than just an idea. She had fought against the very structures that had stifled her. Lila could almost feel the weight of her ancestors' determination. It echoed in her own chest. What had happened to propel her into the shadows? Why had she given up on this fight? Lila's heart ached for the woman who had dared to dream. Did she feel as lost as Lila did now? Lila? A voice broke her concentration. She turned to find Jenna approaching with a stack of books under her arm. I thought you might find some history here. Did you find anything? Lila's eyes glinted with hope. Just some old records and city maps. I thought we might trace where she planned to build the center, Jenna said, her excitement infectious. Together, they delved into the records, poring over maps and documents that painted bright visions of the past. They pieced together a story, one filled with heartache but also resilience. Each discovery strengthened Lila's resolve. It was time to reclaim the narrative. Hours slipped by as they immersed themselves in long-forgotten dreams, but the more they unearthed, the more questions surfaced. Jenna paused mid-sentence, gazing at Lila with a serious expression. Are you ready for what this might mean, Lila? Knowing everything could change how you see your family and yourself. The gravity of Jenna's words hit her, and suddenly she felt the weight of the future bearing down on her. Could she really face what lay hidden? I don't know, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. It's your choice, Jenna said gently. But whatever you decide, you won't face it alone. Lila looked around the library, feeling both small and emboldened. She thought of her great-grandmother's dreams, now woven into her own. She couldn't let fear drown her. I want to know. I have to know. With renewed determination, they pulled out more documents determined to connect the dots. Just as the sun began to set outside, casting a golden glow through the dusty windows, Lila's eyes landed on an unexpected name in a letter. Her great-grandmother had written to someone. A name. A person Lila had never known existed. Her heart raced again, but this time it was for a different reason. Who is this? She whispered, scanning the letter for clues. Jenna's brow furrowed. I don't know, but it seems you've just uncovered a new thread in this tapestry. What surprise awaited them? There was no turning back now, and Lila felt the pulse of her great-grandmother's legacy guiding her. But she also felt a creeping trepidation. How deep did this rabbit hole go? As they exchanged glances, Lila knew they were about to uncover something that could change everything. What truths lay ahead, waiting to be revealed? The air in the library pulsed with tension. Lila held the letter tightly, fingers brushing over the ink smudges as if the written word could somehow whisper secrets to her. The name burned in her mind, an anchor and a riddle all at once. Who was this person, and why had her great-grandmother reached out? Let's figure this out, Lila said, her voice stronger now. She flipped back to the beginning of the letter, searching for context. The words blurred as she tried to absorb every line, feeling the immense weight of hope and fear coil within her. Maybe it's an ally, Jenna suggested, leaning in closer to peek at the letter. Someone who could have helped her with the proposals? Or maybe it's someone she needed to hide from, Lila countered. Her heart pounded. The more they dug, the darker the shadows became. But beneath that weight was an undeniable spark, a need to unravel the narrative. Let's look through correspondence, Jenna said, eager to join in the search. There might be more letters or documents related to this name. They dove deep into the archives, pulling out file after file, losing themselves in a world filled with history and echoes of the past. Hours melted into whirls of energy and purpose. The sun sank lower, turning the library's pages into silhouettes against a backdrop of twilight. Lila's eyes began to tire, but the adrenaline kept her pushing through. Just when she thought they had exhausted the records, a thin yellowed envelope slipped out from a stack of documents. Lila's pulse quickened. What's that? Jenna asked, peering over Lila's shoulder. Lila carefully opened the envelope, hesitating as she pulled out the delicate paper inside. With every crease she unfolded, a mixture of dread and excitement surged through her. It was another letter, this one written in a different hand, more ornate but laden with emotion. "Dear Clara," it began, the name striking a warm memory in Lila's heart. She looked up, startled by the personal touch. "I cannot express my sorrow for the pain you're experiencing." Each word felt weighty, resonating deeply with her own feelings of longing for understanding. "What does it say?" Jenna urged, snapping Lila back to reality. "Listen," Lila said quietly, reading aloud. "The world is heavy with judgments, but I see your heart. This fight you wage isn't just for you, but for the future. Never lose sight of the light you bring." There was a pause as both women processed the raw intimacy of the words, the connection between Lila and her ancestor deepening. Lila flinched, eyes wide. "This isn't just about projects or proposals. It's about a legacy of love and resilience." Tears prickled at the corners of her eyes. The realization that her great-grandmother was not just a fighter, but a woman, full of dreams, made her chest swell with a mix of grief and pride. What if this person is the key to discovering why she started this fight?" Jenna whispered, her expression shifting to one of concern. "Then we need to find out who they are." Lila's voice was steady now, resolve flooding her being. "We have to find this person if they're still alive. There could be answers, truths waiting for us." But just as Lila basked in newfound determination, a low murmur from the library entrance caught their attention. Turning, they saw an older gentleman peering into the archives, his face etched with curiosity, then recognition. Suddenly a jolt of fear gripped Lila's heart. Who was he? Did he know something about her great-grandmother's story? The weight of potential revelation hung in the air. With a racing heartbeat, Lila grasped the letter in her hand. It felt like destiny calling. "Wait, who are you?" she called out, feeling the electricity of change crackling through her. The man took a step forward, a solemn look in his eyes. "I think I owe you some answers." What secrets did this stranger hold that could illuminate Lila's path? The hunt for the truth was just beginning, and she was more ready than ever to face whatever awaited. Lila held her breath as the man stepped closer. His presence seemed to absorb the light from the library, casting shadows on their ready faces. She could see the lines of age around his eyes, and the weight of untold stories etched into the furrows of his forehead. For a heartbeat, time stood still. The air vibrated with a shared recognition. "Who are you?" Lila repeated, though this time the tremor in her voice betrayed her uncertainty. She clenched the letter tighter, a lifeline amidst the chaos of questions swirling in her mind. "I knew Clara well," he replied, his voice deep and reaffirming. "And if you're holding that letter, then you're in search of truths far greater than you realize." "Clara?" Jenna echoed, the name hanging in the air like a raindrop poised to fall. "You knew my great-grandmother?" The man nodded slowly, as if each affirmation cost him something. "Yes. I was her confidant during a turbulent time, a time that may have shaped her decisions. And yours." A shiver traveled down Lila's spine. The idea that this man could have played a part in her great-grandmother's life, particularly during those formative moments, ignited a fire in her chest. "What do you mean?" she asked, her heart racing. "There were struggles, both personal and professional, that you might not be aware of." He took a breath, as though preparing to share something raw and deep. Clara fought tirelessly not just for her visions, but against forces that sought to erase her story. "What forces?" Jenna pressed, her curiosity mingling with concern. Ignoring her question for a moment, the man's gaze drifted to the letter. The words she wrote. It was her power, her ability to communicate her truth in a world that often silenced women like her. But it also made her enemies. Lila felt her chest tighten. A legacy of hidden battles, a family history entwined with confrontation and courage. "Enemies," she murmured, partly to absorb this new layer of complexity, and partly to challenge the darkness that loomed. People were afraid of what she represented. An outspoken woman with ambitions of her own, she seemed dangerous to some. The man's eyes glittered with a mix of regret and respect. And for what it's worth, her bravery inspired many, including me. Why didn't we know any of this before? Lila asked, frustration creeping into her voice. It was overwhelming to think that so much identity had been cloaked in secrecy. Sometimes, the truth hides behind fear and shame, he replied softly. People bury their truths to protect the next generation. As the man's words settled between them, Lila felt a burning desire to uncover more. She sensed that within the layers of her great-grandmother's story lay not only answers, but also the keys to understanding her own journey. Can you tell us what really happened? Jenna urged. You must know something that could help us piece it all together. The man hesitated, weighing his words. It's not just about Clara. It's about understanding who you are as much as who she was. You bear her legacy. What does that even mean? Lila challenged, the heat of determination rising in her. She felt ready to unearth the truth, regardless of what it might bring. It means your story is still being written, and the choices you make will echo through generations. He paused, looking deeply into her eyes. Are you prepared for what you might discover? Lila exchanged a glance with Jenna, the air thick with unspoken promises. We're ready, she declared. Just tell us what we need to know. With a slight nod, the man stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. Then let me tell you about the hidden truths that led to Clara's fight, and how it all began with a simple letter. Lila felt her heart leap at the thought. This was just the beginning. But as she leaned in, eager for even more revelation, she couldn't shake the feeling that some secrets were guarded fiercely for a reason. What could these hidden truths mean for her? Would they change everything she thought she knew? The connection to the past was closer than ever, and the deeper they dug, the more she realized the risks ahead. The man hesitated, drawing in a breath as though the air itself carried the weight of a memory he wasn't sure he wanted to share. Lila, heart pounding, felt the pull of anticipation mixed with dread. She leaned closer, her eyes searching his for the truth buried beneath years of silence. It began with that letter, he murmured. Clara wrote it on a cold winter's night, pouring out her heart as the snow blanketed the world outside. She was on the brink, both in her personal life and her career, burdened with her choices. It was an offering, a plea for understanding in a time of chaos. Jenna shifted, her fingers tracing the spine of the book in front of her. The library, filled with the scent of leather and old pages, seemed to pulse with unspoken histories, inviting them to dive deeper. What did she say in the letter? She pressed, eyes wide with curiosity. The man's gaze grew distant, as if the memories leaped to life. She spoke of her dreams, her fears, and a man who sought to control her narrative. A powerful figure who didn't want a woman with a voice to rise above the rest. Were they lovers? Lila asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She felt a strange connection to Clara's pain, a universe apart, yet as close as the letters in her hand. No, he replied, shaking his head slowly. This man represented a threat, a polished facade hiding dark intentions. He wanted to keep Clara from becoming who she was meant to be. He coveted her talent, her passion, but feared her strength. Lila exchanged a glance with Jenna, each of them absorbing the resonance of those words. The realization struck like a bolt of lightning. She fought her battles alone? Yes, he said, and the weight shattered her spirit at times. Clara had to make choices that broke her in ways few could understand. Yet, she penned that letter, hoping that one day, after everything had settled, someone would hear her truth. His voice dropped even lower. But it never reached anyone. One thing led to another, and she became lost in the shadows of that man's influence. The legacy she hoped to leave behind vanished. A chill ran through Lila. So, her story didn't end with her. It continued in silence? Precisely. The man stepped back, the weight of his words heavy in the air. And it's time for you to uncover that story. To find the truth she inspired but could never reveal. It's time to turn the tide. Lila's heart raced. The fear that had been nestled deep within her shattered as flames of determination ignited. How can we help her story? How can we bring it back into the light? He studied her for a moment, a glimmer of respect in his eyes. You must seek the people, the events, and the places tied to her life. Follow the threads of her past. But be careful. His tone shifted, a warning lacing the edges of his words. There are still people who would rather keep her silent. Who? Jenna's voice broke through the tension, a blend of urgency and bravery. There are always those who fear the truth, he said quietly. And as you dig deeper, you may find that you're not just unraveling Clara's past, but your own. The revelation hung in the air, heavy with implication. Lila felt the world around her narrow down to the man's penetrating eyes. What do you mean? She asked. But even as she did, she felt a realization wash over her, a connection tying her lifespan to that of her great-grandmother, to choices made long before she drew breath. You will see, he replied cryptically. But be prepared. For every truth unearthed, a shadow will fall. The risks are higher than you anticipate. Lila nodded, determination coursing through her veins. She suddenly felt the echoes of her great-grandmother's spirit urging her forward, resonating with her own struggles and aspirations. As the conversation lingered in the air, the doors of the library creaked open, allowing a gust of wind to sweep in, carrying with it both possibility and dread. What happens next? Lila asked, heart racing in sync with her thoughts. They stood at the threshold of a journey that would redefine everything they knew. The man smiled faintly, a spark of hope nestled amidst his shadows. The discovery lies ahead, tangled in layers of truth waiting for your voice to set them free. But be careful. The deeper you go, the more you risk losing. Are you ready for the journey? The question hung there, electric in its urgency, and Lila's heart beat loud in her ears. Could she truly unravel the threads of a legacy that had haunted their family for generations? And as they stood at that crossroads, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. What hidden truths were waiting just beyond the shadows of their past? Lila felt the weight of the man's question settle on her shoulders. It wrapped around her heart like a tight embrace, inviting yet suffocating all at once. What if I'm not strong enough? She said, her voice trembling. The fear of failure loomed large, but the flicker of hope inside her refused to be extinguished. Jenna reached for her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. You're stronger than you think, Lila. We'll do this together. There was a bond growing between them, a sisterhood sparked by the quest for truth. Lila drew in a deep breath, ready to step into this unknown territory with Jenna by her side. Let's start with Clara's life, Lila said, her voice steadier. What do we know? The man turned, motioning for them to follow him deeper into the library. Shadows danced around the shelves as they wandered through the aisles, the history cradled in every book, a silent witness to Clara's story. This is where it truly begins, he said, stopping in front of an aged oak desk that looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. Dust motes swirled like old memories in the shafts of light that broke through the windows. The first thing you need to uncover is the context of her world. You can start with these. He pointed to a stack of journals, the leather cracked and soft to the touch. Clara kept meticulous records of her life. These might hold the answers you seek. Lila felt a shiver of excitement course through her. She carefully picked up the top journal, its weight grounding her as she opened the first page. The ink was faded, but the words still danced with urgency. Clara's voice stirred to life in her mind, vibrant and vivid. Lila's eyes skimmed over thoughts of aspirations, societal pressures, and heart-wrenching dilemmas. She struggled with who she was meant to be versus who the world wanted her to become, Jenna commented, her voice low yet filled with admiration. Exactly, the man said, leaning over Lila's shoulder. Each entry reveals her battles with that controlling figure. The more you read, the more you'll understand the choices she made and the price she paid. It can be overwhelming. Lila swallowed hard. The shadows of Clara's choices felt alive, creeping closer as she turned the pages. With each sentence, uncovered truths scattered like ashes around them. How did Clara hold it all together? Did she ever think of giving up? Suddenly, Jenna gasped. Look! She pointed to a passage detailing an invitation to a gala, an event that seemed to be of great significance. This is before everything fell apart. Maybe someone at that gala could lead us to more answers? Or maybe someone who didn't want Clara's voice to spread, he warned. The bazaar of hidden motivations will unravel the deeper you go. Lila shivered at the thought. We have to follow this thread, she declared, feeling newfound urgency pull her forward. The past felt electric around her and she couldn't ignore it any longer. They spent the next hour poring over Clara's writings, each revelation peeling back the layers of the woman she had once been. Lila felt the flicker of a fire igniting in her belly, a mix of fear and empowerment. Do you think we can confront the shadows? Jenna asked, her eyes glowing. Let's not think of them as shadows but as pieces of a puzzle, Lila replied, savoring the strength they had found in the library's hushed corners. Each piece tells Clara's story, and ours too. Just as they began to formulate a plan, Lila's phone buzzed loudly, breaking the spell of quiet determination. The screen lit up with a name that sent chills down her spine. Eric, the figure she had been trying to escape from in her own life. Lila, I think it's time we talk. His text read. This was no coincidence. She felt the weight of history pressing down, merging her past with Clara's. What did Eric want? Lila looked up, her heart pounding. What happens if he's part of this story too? Jenna's grip on her hand tightened. Then we face whatever's next. Together. As Lila stared into the depths of the library, bright with the promises of the past, she realized they were on the edge of a terrifying revelation. Unraveling these threads could change everything. But at what cost? Would they find the truth they sought? And as the shadows loomed larger, Lila's heart raced with a mix of dread and fiery anticipation. With the specter of Eric now looming, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. What were they really stepping into? Lila's fingers trembled as she stared at her phone, the screen pulsing like a warning light. Eric's name opened a floodgate of memories, some warm, some that burned. Deep down, she knew that talking to him held its own danger, intertwined with this new journey into Clara's past. What do I do? Lila whispered, her voice almost lost in the silence of the library. Jenna leaned closer, her presence a steadying force. First, let's look at what Clara wrote about people like Eric, Jenna suggested, her tone supportive. Maybe understanding Clara's battles will help you see yours more clearly. With a nod, Lila set her phone aside, forcing herself to focus on the journals. She flipped through pages frantically, seeking a connection. After a moment, she found a passage detailing a relationship that mirrored her own. The exhilaration, the insecurities, and the all-consuming affection that masked the underlying turmoil. Here, Lila said, her finger tracing the words. Clara talks about a man who was charming, but controlling. It's haunting how similar it feels. Jenna leaned in closer, her brow furrowed. Does she get away? Lila kept reading, a knot forming in her stomach. Clara's words became darker as she described a moment of clarity, the decision that set her free. She discovered her own worth, but not without pain, Lila murmured, feeling echoes of Clara's struggle reverberate within herself. What if Clara's strength is the key for you? A spark ignited in Jenna's eyes. You can find your voice too. The more they uncovered, the more Lila found pieces of her own story woven into Clara's. It was terrifying, yet liberating. Maybe they weren't so different after all. Just then, another buzz interrupted them. Lila's heart skipped as she picked up her phone. It was another message from Eric. We need to talk. I care about you. Jenna frowned. You can't go back. Not now. Lila's hands shook. What did care mean when it felt like a chain? What if he's right? What if I'm just walking away from something real? No, Jenna replied firmly, but her eyes softened. What's real is the journey you're on now. Don't turn back. Clara didn't. The words wrapped around her heart, firm yet comforting, reminding her of the bond they had formed. With each new layer peeled away from Clara's story, the doubts began to lift. Maybe she could confront Eric. Maybe Clara had paved the way for her to claim her voice. Let's find out what happened at that gala, Lila decided, feeling a thrill of courage. It feels like the perfect place to uncover more truths. As she spoke, a chill slithered through the library. Lila glanced around, a prickling sensation crawling over her skin. The air felt heavier, as if the shadows were watching, storing all the secrets waiting to be revealed. Jenna sensed it too, tensing beside her. What if we're not alone here? A gust of wind swept through the library, rustling the pages of the open journals, as if a whisper echoed through the air, an invitation, or perhaps a warning. Lila turned to the man who had guided them. Do you feel that? He nodded slowly, his expression serious. Books can hold more truths than you think. You must tread carefully. The past doesn't just fade. Lila's pulse quickened. The hidden history was more alive than she ever imagined. The intertwining threads of Clara's life and her own were pulling tighter, exposing dark corners that held both danger and discovery. I won't back down, Lila declared, determination surging. Let's dig deeper. But as they prepared to dive into the next journal, the library door creaked open behind them, and a figure stepped in, a familiar silhouette that made Lila freeze in place. With a tight throat, she whispered, "What if it's him?" The tension in the air thickened, and Lila's heart raced, unsure whether to flee or confront the past head-on. They were no longer just chasing shadows, they were standing at the threshold of a storm. What awaited them when the truth met reality? The figure stepped into the soft light filtering through the library windows, hesitation on his face. Eric. Lila's breath hitched, a sudden surge of emotions crashing over her. The air thickened with unspoken words and tangled histories, and for a moment, time stood still. What are you doing here, Eric? Lila managed to ask, her voice steady but quaking inside. She was teetering on the edge of resolve and fear, history unraveling around her like an old tapestry. Lila, please. He took a step closer, vulnerability etched across his features. I came to talk. I need you to understand. Understand what? Lila wanted to shout. The way you hurt me? The way you made me doubt myself? But Jenna stepped forward, her protective nature unfurling like a shield. This isn't the time, Eric. You need to respect that. Wait, Lila interjected, raising her hand. A part of her wanted to retreat, but another part, shaped by Clara's journey, pushed her to stand firm. What do you want? I want to clear the air, he said, desperation creeping into his voice. I care about you, Lila. I don't want to lose you. Every word felt like a double-edged sword. She had thought of the journey ahead, weaving Clara's story into her own, and now it collided with the man who had once dominated her thoughts and feelings. But what happens when the past comes back? Lila challenged, her heart racing. You think I can forget? You think I can just return to the way things were? The man's face softened, pain woven into the fabric of his expression. I know I made mistakes. I've spent nights reflecting on what I lost. I acted out of fear. Fear of what? Lila pressed, feeling the walls of the library close in as her own scars began to unveil. Fear of letting me be me. Eric took another step forward, his hands outstretched as if he could pull her back into his world. No, it was fear of losing control. I was scared of your potential, your strength. Lila's heart broke. Did he truly understand the gravity of his effects? You can't control love, she whispered, overwhelmed. Love is meant to lift you up, not hold you down. A flicker of realization crossed Eric's face. I realize that now. I've changed, Lila. I'm trying to change. Before Lila could reply, Jenna's phone buzzed, cutting through the emotional charge. It's another message from your great-grandmother's archive, she said, glancing down. It must be important. Lila's gaze darted back to Jenna. What does it say? Jenna quickly scanned the message aloud. Remember the fight she fought not only for herself, but for the women who came after her. I need time to think, Lila said, shaking her head as her thoughts raced in two directions. Time to understand what this means. Lila, please, Eric began, but she cut him off. I can't do this while feeling pulled back to you. Not now. There was silence, the weight of unresolved emotions swirling around them like autumn leaves in a gusty breeze. Lila suddenly knew that she was at a crossroads, a moment that echoed Clara's own struggles. Lila, the older man spoke, stepping forward just as the air shifted. This moment is your choice. You can reclaim your own narrative or let fear write it for you. Just like Clara, you hold the pen. What will you choose? Lila felt her heart race, the weight of the question resting on her shoulders. Her legacy wasn't about Eric. It was about honoring the struggle of women before her. I will find my own truth, Lila declared, her voice growing stronger, louder than the doubts and fears clawing at her spirit. I will live out this legacy. Jenna beamed, the pride shining from her eyes instantly giving Lila strength. As Lila faced Eric one last time, she felt the realization that she was severing an unhealthy bond. The chains that once bound her were beginning to break. I hope you find your way too, Eric, she said, her voice steady, almost serene. Eric looked defeated, and there was a flicker of something genuine in his gaze, regret mixed with loss. But Lila felt unshaken. With every step she took away from him and toward her journey, clarity filled the spaces where fear once lingered. Stepping back into Jenna's supportive presence, Lila exhaled deeply, feeling the weight lift just a little more. The shadows in the library felt lighter, as if the truths hidden behind the books were coming alive, spinning a web of hope and determination. Let's get back to Clara's legacy, Lila said, turning to the man who had fueled her courage. I want to continue this journey. Then let's uncover the rest of her story together, he replied, pride gleaming behind his eyes. As they delved back into the journals, the air pulsed with newfound fervor. The path ahead was still winding, but Lila no longer felt lost. She was ready to face whatever came, ready to embrace her own journey and carve out a future steeped in love, resilience, and purpose. The journey had transformed her, and the realization swirled through her. Legacy wasn't just about the past, it was about the strength to create a future. She felt it, coursing through her veins. Determined, Lila closed her eyes for a moment, planting her feet firmly on the ground. The shadows that once haunted her had begun to dissolve, replaced by visions of hope, community, and a future filled with possibilities. Now that you've reached this intense conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm and let others feel the transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.